Rich DeMarco back on Night Vision time now for Army One-on-One, a chance to get up close and personal with a Black Knight cadet athlete. Joining us, senior offensive tackle from the Army football team, Ben Jebb. Ben, thanks for a couple of minutes here on Army One-on-One.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Ben, for you, two parents that graduated from West Point. West Point runs deep in your family. Let's talk about your first recollections of the academy and maybe specifically Army football.
Right. Well, West Point and Army football have always been, together for me. There was no separation. Growing up on West Point from 2nd grade until 8th grade, every Saturday in the fall was spent at Mikey Stadium. Watching my favorite players play, Reggie Neville, Caleb Campbell, and, those guys growing up. But certainly served as inspiration to come here.
Ben, when it came down to looking at colleges and thinking of colleges, having two parents that went to West Point maybe helped in your knowledge of the academy, but what were really the reasons why you chose to come here?
West Point was definitely always in the cards growing up here, but my parents didn't want it to feel like I was being pushed in here. So they made sure that, I looked at what else was out there, and it was really once I went away and saw what other colleges were about that I realized West Point's the place for me. I want that. The discipline, I just love the brotherhood and, the relationships you build here at West Point were nothing I saw like at, the other colleges I saw. So,
having your family so close by, a chance to play Division I football, it must be a pretty perfect scenario you have here.
It really could not have worked out any better. One of the first things I always do when we get onto the field, I look in the section where I sat as a kid, and my parents are still there wearing their 58 shirts or Army football stuff, and I try and catch my dad's eye before I take to the field.
Let's talk about the course load here at West Point and balancing being a cadet and being an athlete and all those things together. How challenging is it, and how much maybe have you learned about yourself having to balance those two major responsibilities?
It's challenging, especially with our new schedule where we practice in the morning. But I think having so much to do, they took all the slack out of our schedule. So having so much to do, there's literally, if you deviate even a little bit, you're going to fall behind. So I think the fact that they overload us little keeps everyone on the straight path. It's been my experience.
Into the starting lineup this year, and tell me about your 4 years with the Army football program and what it's meant to work your way through the depth chart and having a solid first two games, as the coaches have said, playing at that left tackle position.
Coming here and finding out that I was going to play offensive line was kind of a shock to the system at first. Came in as a defensive lineman. Actually, my first meeting with the offensive line, a senior guard, told me that the wide receiver room was next door. But it's been a great experience the first 2 years, where I think critical just from a growth perspective and physically, and then, junior year making A squad, and this year I think it's just been it's kind of hard to describe, but certain picture perfect scenario.
Ben, you have branch night coming up, and of course going to become a second lieutenant here in a few months. What have you thought about in the U.S. Army and what you would like to do once you graduate here from West Point?
Well, I'm hoping to branch infantry. That's my first choice, and then if I don't get that, hopefully armor. But I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting the cross rifles, and then going to Georgia with a lot of my teammates, where we'll go to Bolick, and the guys on the team and I are already talking about getting a house together and talking about infantry stuff. And then after that, I want to head to either Fort Carson in Colorado or Fort Lewis.
Well, Ben, thanks for a couple of minutes here on Army One-on-One. Best of luck the rest of this senior season for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Army senior offensive lineman Ben Jebb joining us here on Army One-on-One. I'm Rich DeMarco for Night Vision.